Welcome to the podcast. My name is Aaron Savage.
And mine is George Rudge.
This is episode 2 of our so far unnamed podcast. And today we will be talking about all things sleep related. This is going to be basically going into a few tips and tricks that we both use and have been trying to implement at home in our lives to help with our sleep. So hopefully whoever's listening to this is going to be able to go away with a bit of useful advice and some useful habits that they can start putting into place, and you won't be put to sleep by our conversation. So,
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. First things first, though, we're going to try something a little bit new, and we're going to do a quote of the week.
Ooh,
and
we need a jingle.
we need a jingle. We'll get that in at some point for one of the future episodes. For now, it's going to be Meditations by Marcus Aurelius, and this is coming from book 5, and the quote as such goes: "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work as a human being. What do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for, the things I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm. But it's nicer here. So you were born to feel nice instead of doing things and experiencing them? Don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants, the spiders and bees going about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can, and you're not willing to do your job as a human being?" There we go. So that is a little extract from Marcus Aurelius in Meditations. And the reason why I chose this one this week, George, is because of A, the topic we're going to talk about is all sleep related, and B, myself personally, I've been feeling a little bit groggy this week. I've got a cold, so just when you get a bit bunged up, not sleeping very well, and as the weather's getting colder as well, it's getting darker out, I've been finding it a little bit more tricky getting out of bed.
A little bit tough.
And that's something that I've been thinking about that helps me get up. It kicks my ass out of bed because I'm like, you know what? Why am I just sitting here? I've got things to do. I need to go to the gym. I need to do work. I need to just get up.
Yeah.
What do you think? How's your week gone for starters? And then tell me what you think of the quote.
I like it. I think that quote is it's a good one, and it's one that hits hard almost every time you read it. I know both me and you are big fans of Meditations, and like my copy is barely hanging together now. Like I will have to buy a new one at some point. It's just probably a book that I can pick up and go back to anytime. And you can. The nice thing about it is you can pick it up, look at any page, and you're sort of into it because there's no real thread all the way through. But yeah, that quote hits hard every time because it makes you think, and it makes you sit there and go, well, yeah, you're right. Like it is bloody comfy in bed, and some mornings, particularly this morning, it would have been a lot easier just to stay there for a little bit longer, but there's stuff to be done. You've got to be industrious, look at everything else that's moving in the world. You can't just afford to lie there. But yeah, on the topic of sleep, mate, this is probably one of my key passions in life, I would say.
I agree
Not
with
only
that.
am I a key advocate of sleep, but I take my sleep quite seriously.
You do, and you have done even since we were at university together. You were still very much I'm getting my 8 hours of sleep. Even if we're going out, I'm getting my 8 hours of sleep.
No messing about. And I think, to be honest, a big driver of that becomes from like, I don't deal very well without good sleep. Back to your question around how this week's been, we've been actually looking after someone's dog for the week, which has been amazing. She's lovely to have around, but she does tend to get up a little bit early. And then,
How early are we talking?
we're talking like 5, 6-ish.
Okay, that is early.
So I'm normally out of bed for like 7, half 7.
Wow.
In bed for like 10, 11, something like that. But yeah, so this week's been a bit ropey on the sleep front. So that's probably why I'm a little bit groggy today. So if I'm not making any sense, that'd be why. But yes, it is a key passion, mate. And no doubt we'll get into some tips and tricks, because where it's been sort of forefront of the mind for some years now, there's definitely things that I could probably say that will help people at least. And I know you're trying something at the minute, which you mentioned just before we started this around
Yeah.
not sort of being on your phone and not looking at TV before bed, and that's something I've seen a lot. I've literally, not through lack of trying, but I've almost just not had the discipline to ever do that.
Yeah, and I think that speaks probably on a wider issue in general anyway, that we don't need to go into right now, of not being able to put your phones down. But yeah, so essentially we've been trying to go screen free for the hour before bed. We both get up at around 6:30. I go to the gym in the morning. The missus just starts work early because she's a teacher. So we go to bed at around 10, half 10. Around 9 o'clock, we try and start switching off from electronics of some sort. That's both TV and phone. Whether that then ends it up reading books or just sitting there talking or something like that. It's just what we've been trying to do. Sometimes more successfully than others as well. It is a lot easier said than done, especially when you're trying to watch something, or you're in the middle of a series or something like that, to then be like, well, we're not going to keep binging this. We're now going to turn it off on a cliffhanger and just go to bed. It doesn't always happen. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm perfect and that we do it all the time. But yeah, I do feel like it helps me fall asleep quicker when we have done it.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yeah, that's the big thing for me. I'm someone who tends to struggle falling asleep. At least I feel like I do. And it will take me a good 20 minutes, half an hour at least, to get comfortable and fall asleep and switch the mind off. And doing this and not being on my phone or watching TV, it definitely helps to just calm down a little bit, rather than it only being a time to stop and unwind is when the lights are off and I'm trying to fall asleep. There's now a solid period in the middle of that.
Yeah. Nice. So yeah, I think it's definitely something I want to try as well. I think it's and it's good to hear that you've had actual positive experiences with it. But I also think it's actually, besides the sleep point, it's a good opportunity for you, and I know we both got partners, to actually spend some quality time together that isn't just glued to a screen.
100%.
So I think we'll definitely try and look to do that.
And it is hard. Again, it's not something that's easy, because everything is built to keep you entertained and to keep you hooked on it. So I'm not going to pretend like it isn't a challenge.
Yeah, it is amazing, isn't it? Like when so like for example, if my phone dies and I've got it on me and it's in a situation where I'd normally have it on, like the gym, for example, or whatever, like the amount of times I will pick it up subconsciously, turn it over and look at it, and it's completely dead, and there's that little bit in the back of my brain that's just there like, oh no, dopamine.
Yeah.
And like you can almost feel it, and you're like, this is not healthy, is it?
Mate, you're 100% right. I mean, I don't know what I'd do if my phone died when I was in the gym, because I listen to music. I just go to a commercial gym. I'm not like you in your fancy gyms with loads of training partners. But yeah, I just use a commercial gym. So if the music stopped through my headphones, I'd be completely and utterly lost. But you're right. When your phone dies, it's horrible, and it shouldn't be.
No, it really shouldn't, should it? I know there's saw something the other day on a YouTube channel, I think it's called Cold Fusion, and they do some quite good stuff. They're a big channel, mostly sort of technology and business focused and stuff. But they were saying like the industry of dumb phones is actually making a bit of a revival. So there's more and more people going out and deliberately buying phones that don't have all the applications and everything.
I've been very tempted. I've been very tempted to just drag out the old Motorola flip phone that was used back in the day when we were in secondary school, and just use that instead of a smartphone, and it'd be cheaper. But yeah, man, it's definitely something that I think is worth trying, and we need to keep doing it and get a bit stricter, I guess, with ourselves to properly do it, because we are, as I say, we're trying, but it's not always as easy, and we're not as consistent as what we should probably be. But it does seem to help with falling to sleep. And then when it does get to the morning as well, obviously if you have a good night's sleep, you feel more refreshed, you don't mind getting up in the morning, and then you generally have a better day anyway. So as much as that's something that people know anyway, it does have quite a big knock-on effect. And then if you can't, just again remembering that quote from Marcus Aurelius that I mentioned at the beginning, it's quite poignant when you're sitting there, can't be bothered to move when your alarm's gone off a couple of times. Actually, you know what, no, let's get moving.
Let's get moving, yeah. And once you get moving, it's normally okay, isn't it? Like, a shower's a thing for me in the morning. As soon as I have a shower, I'm all right. But right up until that point, dead to the world.
Yeah. See, I'm more of a morning person anyway.
Right.
But I do completely agree. At the end of the day, once you're up and about, especially that morning shower, sorts you right out.
Yeah. Love it. So
what about for you in terms of any other things that you like to try and do, or that you do to help your sleep?
So yeah, let me open my large book of tips and trips and delve into it. So I think first and foremost for me, I think this is somewhat unique, but not a special snowflake in any way. But my caffeine intake hugely dictates how I sleep. So even like I'm particularly sort of caffeine sensitive, or at least seem to be compared to my peers, if you like. Everyone can sit there and just chin coffee all day or drink coffee all day, and I certainly cannot. No,
I'm exactly the same. After midday, if I have a coffee, I'm done for.
Yeah, it's crazy how long it sort of stays in your system. I think it's the half-life, like 5-6 hours, something like that, on caffeine. So if I do have a coffee, it's first thing. It's usually before 9 a.m. And I know I'll get to sleep, but I won't feel as refreshed the next day. And that's off like one coffee in the morning. So I think first and foremost, my go-to whenever I'm not sleeping very well is like, right, bite the bullet, no caffeine today, just ride it out, get on with it, and you'll feel better for it tomorrow. I'm actually doing that today, funny enough, because I've got a big day tomorrow. I need to be on point. It's quite a social day.
Have a coffee tomorrow then?
Well, I don't think I will.
No.
Well, it's an all-day kind of thing, so I can't be affording any crashes. I mean, that's another thing, isn't it? But I don't want to be feeling miserable in the afternoon or anything like that. So I'm off the caffeine today, which is probably why I'm a little groggy. And then I'll probably next coffee will probably be like Monday morning or something like that. But so yes, caffeine is a big one for me. I'll rattle through some of these, otherwise I'm going to be blatting on for ages. But so you mentioned training, like both me and you sort of go to the gym and train, and I find that helps me sleep a lot.
Hugely. Actually working your body is a massive impact on your sleep. Being active, lifting weights like we both do, it really does help just tire you out. And again, I work out in the morning, it helps wake me up, but then by the time it gets to the evening and I'm ready for bed, I'm also tired because I've been up and then worked out in the morning. So it kind of sets you up for the day and also ends your day quite nicely, I find.
Nice, yeah. I'm more of an evening sort of trainer, purely just because so I Olympic weightlift when I'm training, and the sessions tend to take like 2+ hours. So for me, doing that in the morning is a bit of a no-go.
I probably wouldn't do that either. Yeah, the thing is that if I don't in the morning, as I said earlier, in a commercial gym, trying to use any equipment when people have left work is horrendous. And especially because I'm in central London, you try and go to a gym at 6 o'clock in the evening, you are not getting on anything. There's no free weights, there's no racks, there's no machines, there's no treadmills even. So it's either early or I don't go.
Really?
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But yeah, I do agree with what you say though, in terms of exercise. It's a good point.
Definitely helps. And then I think The other big thing for me, this is something that I've only really realised recently, is eating earlier. So like where I train in the evenings, I went for years having dinner when I got back in from training, and it was like, it wouldn't be unusual for me to be eating at like 9:30, 10 o'clock. It's fine. Yeah, you're smiling at me there. Right? No one can see this. You're smiling at me because you knew obviously when we lived together at uni, like I'd come back from the gym, it's pitch black outside, and there's me like frying up some chicken, ready to have some like bland chicken meal.
I remember I used to be waiting. It sounds really weird, but like waiting for people to come home, because obviously we lived with Champ as well. So you'd both be out at the gym in the evening. The house would be quiet. It'd just be me and Emma in the house, and we'd end up like just sitting there watching TV, waiting for you guys to get home. It'd be 9, half 9, and you'd get in and then start eating dinner, and it was just insane. Like whacking out the old George Foreman grill and grilling some chicken at 9:30 in the evening and having that with some rice. It was mad.
Literally. But and everyone used to tell me it, and that was the thing. Like everyone used to tell me that the like eating late for you is not great. Like it affects your sleep. And I was almost like, well, I seem to be sleeping fine. Like, and I was sleeping, don't get me wrong. I was sleeping from the time I got in bed to the time I woke up. But I tried eating earlier, right? After years of belligerently going against this.
Yeah.
And it does make a big old difference, just to the quality of sleep. So I wake up feeling more refreshed now. So now we're trying to eat before I train and that sort of stuff.
That's really interesting. That is definitely really interesting.
You don't realise how much of a difference it makes, but
no, see, I'm a big sweet. I've got a big sweet tooth. I will easily have dinner, and then I've got to have something sweet in the evening just to like satisfy my cravings, you know. But that tends to be at around like 9 o'clock in the evening to then go to bed at 10. Yeah, a bit of a glucose spike just before you go to bed. Maybe that's something that I'll consider as well then, just whacking that out a bit earlier so that it's no longer hopefully playing an impact
like just before bed.
Into sleep. Yeah,
definitely. And I think interestingly, so this is sort of, I did a little bit of research into this, and interestingly, protein is actually one of the worst things. So you'd almost think like, oh, it's protein's protein.
Interesting.
But apparently, where it sort of has a significant effect on sort of your metabolism, it can actually cause, you can tell I'm going off piece here, but
could take you having had a coffee.
Yeah, quite feeling a bit sluggish. Your body's basically in like a hyper. Words aren't coming to me, but it's.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah, okay. I hope the people who are actually listening can.
If not, you just leave a comment underneath the video, and George can explain when he's actually had the coffee if it's not making sense now.
There we go. So your body's basically on full tilt at that point.
Wow.
And yeah, so apparently protein's one of the worst ones, which is interesting because having a protein shake before bed was not unusual for me. No,
I've done that many a time as well. And as I said earlier, you were always eating chicken right before bed at uni, always. So that is really interesting to know. Wow.
Yeah, worth bearing in mind. And then I guess anything else from your side, mate? Anything else that you try or want to try or have tried?
I mean, I've tried meditation as well.
Okay.
I think it's something that used to do it quite regularly. I haven't done it for quite a long time, to be honest, and I'd definitely like to get back into that again. I find it sometimes a little bit tricky when you live with someone, like a partner, to get that time to meditate without being, I don't know, antisocial and just like leaving them alone for 15 minutes whilst you go and sit in a room in silence. But I'd like to maybe try that again, because I do feel like that helped again. For me, it's the whole switching off of your mind or quieting your mind down a little bit, you know, because I do find a lot of the time when I'm trying to go to sleep, I'm thinking about work or I'm thinking about something else that I need to be doing. So at least that way, that would kind of minimise the impact that would have on my sleep again. So
Yeah.
I'd like to maybe try that. What else? I mean, the only other thing that we did mention when we were talking before the show, which I'm going to put a disclaimer on this, we are not doctors. We don't play one on the internet. We're not giving any medical advice. And if you want to have any, or do any of this, what we're going to say, talk to a doctor potentially beforehand. Don't just listen to what we say. ZMAs.
Yes.
ZMAs. They were lifesavers at uni, which is when I predominantly took them. A couple of them in the evening just before you go to bed. As long as you get 8 hours sleep, best night's sleep you will ever have.
And if you don't get 8 hours sleep?
If you don't get 8 hours sleep, you are not going to be in a great way. You'll be okay, but you're going to feel a little bit groggy, because I feel like you need a good 8 hours to feel fully refreshed after you've taken one or two ZMAs before bed. But yeah, like you're the one who introduced me to them as well.
Yeah. So I think a bit of context there for people who don't know. For a bit of context around people who don't know sort of what we're on about there. So ZMAs is actually sort of the brand name, if you like. There's a whole interesting story around actually how they came to fruition, if you want to get into the Balco Lab scandal, that sort of stuff. But
mate, you're talking about stuff that I have no idea about.
Yeah, I'll explain it to you at some point.
Okay.
But basically, they're a combination of zinc, magnesium, vitamin B6, I believe it is.
Yeah, I think so.
But that's just like a brand name for those three things that have been banged together, basically. So they're not per se sleeping tablets or anything like that. They are literally just a supplement, but they can help with sleep, and we certainly found that they did. Whether or not, because I came ranting and raving to you about them, and then you tried them and you had a nice placebo effect or not.
Could be a placebo effect, yeah, 100%. I have heard other people talk about magnesium in particular, though, as being really, really beneficial for sleep. But again, I've never taken just magnesium. I can only talk about what I have done, which is ZMAs.
ZMAs, yeah, nice. But yeah, they're worthwhile. Obviously, check that you can take them and all that sort of stuff before you go anywhere near it. But yeah, they're definitely one to try.
Interesting.
Meditation, yeah, that's an interesting one, mate. Yeah, and I think
it's never really been your thing, though, is it? Oh, meditation.
I've tried it a bit, but I think, like you say, it's fitting it into your life in a way that's not. I guess it's like anything; you just need to prioritize it and turn it into a bit of a habit. But the closest thing that I was doing on a regular basis was like hot yoga, right? So
yeah. I remember you mentioning this to me now.
This is not the traditional, obviously sat there sort of quiet room meditating, but it's almost active meditation, because all you're doing is thinking about breathing. All right, you're getting yourself in quite bendy shapes and sweating quite a lot at the same time. All your mind is doing is focusing on like the position you're in, trying to balance, and then you're breathing. Like you have to keep a constant breathing rhythm throughout.
So what makes it hot? This is what I don't understand. When you mentioned it to me before, I was like, okay, hot yoga. I know what the yoga part is. Where does the heat come into it? Is it in a sauna? What is it?
It's near enough, mate. So like, it's basically they put you in a big old tent thing, and then you're doing yoga in there, but they have heaters in there, and they're all set to 40 degrees Celsius.
Warm. Very warm.
Super warm. It might be like 37, something like that, but it is toasty.
Yeah. Over the comfortable limit where you'd want to be to just do normal yoga.
Way past that limit, yeah.
Okay.
You are like wet by the end of it. Like literally, like you'll be doing like a downward dog or something, and then you'll be literally just like dripping sweat on the floor. But from a meditative point of view, I found that very, very good. Like you have 15 minutes at the end where you just sort of lie there and recover. And I would find myself in quite a meditative state at that point. Very
That's
chill.
good though. That's a really, really good point that you say, because traditional meditation is, again, it's something that I've tried, been somewhat successful at times and been able to do it consistently. A lot of the time it doesn't last. Whereas doing something like that, where you are doing other things and then it's just the relaxing and focusing on your breathing as you're doing something else, that's a really good idea. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, give it a try, mate. Give it a try. Like we haven't actually been in a couple of weeks, but that's basically because we've sort of moved house and we're a little bit further away and that sort of stuff. But we're moving back in the near future, so we'll start it again. But yeah, I recommend it to everyone, mate. To everyone. So yeah, give it a
there is at least one tip that's come out of today. It's
There
to
you go.
do hot yoga. So if there's anyone who wants to sponsor the show who offers hot yoga, do get in touch.
Yeah, there you go.
But
Mine and
okay,
Aaron's. Go on.
go on. What were you going to say, mate?
I was just going to say mine and your mums are listening if they want.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else? Any other cool tips or tricks that you wanna share with people?
Ooh.
Go on. Ooh,
There
there's
is.
an excited look on George's face for those of you that can't see.
So I said I took sleep passionately, and my absolutely wonderful girlfriend has to put up with me wearing an eye mask, not a bad eye mask, like a nice eye mask, right? I spend good money on this eye
one.
mask.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's good. That's important.
It's all about making sure A, they're blackout, and B, they don't touch your eyelashes because it's really annoying.
Yeah, see, that's why I've never got one before, because I feel like it'd just be like I'm wearing goggles in bed or something.
Spend the money, mate. Spend the money.
Okay.
Get a good one. I can recommend
Yeah.
one. And earplugs. So I sleep with eye mask and earplugs every night.
Okay.
And I swear by that. More from a being able to get good sleep wherever I am sort of aspect. Because now that I'm used to wearing it, it doesn't really matter where I am. I can just sling those on and I know I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the what I was most excited about, mate. Probably because that's the biggest feature in my quote unquote sleep routine, if you like.
No, yeah, I like that. I mean, I have been partial to the odd earplug at times. As I say, I live in central/South London, so it's not the quietest of areas to live, and I'm very noise sensitive. So I do definitely agree with earplugs if you can get some good ones. I like there's some moldable ones that you can literally like shape into your ear,
Yeah.
which are quite cool. So maybe we can pop them in the description below for people if they want to check any of what we're saying out.
Yeah.
You can pop your eye mask in there as well. Your fancy,
Absolutely.
expensive, non-eyelash rubbing eye mask.
Oh, best money you'll spend.
That's good. I like that.
You know, like there's things that you see and they're like, oh, what are the best things under £50 that you would buy?
Yeah.
Boom. I don't know if it was under £50, but it was close.
Mate, more than 50 quid on an eye mask, it better be good. That's all I'm saying.
You think how long you spend in bed?
Yeah, well, a third of your life essentially is asleep, isn't it?
There you go.
So
There you go.
that's why this podcast was so important, because
Voila.
it is very important. Anything else? Any other things that you want to say, mention?
Don't think so, mate. I'll just link back to your sort of quote at the beginning. And I think it's also important to emphasise, like this stuff happens. Like, it just is what it is. Like, sometimes you have a bad night's sleep. Sometimes there's a lot of stuff going on, so you're going to have stuff on your mind. Like, and it's not really a case of getting too angsty about it or getting too worried
100%.
about it. It's just, it's normal. Try and implement some stuff that helps that along a little bit. Nothing's groundbreaking, but you can definitely make a big improvement.
Yeah, and
just-
I'd also
and just
probably
run
say
with it.
do one thing at a time as well. Don't try and do too many things. Like, don't start meditating and buy eye masks and buy earplugs and buy ZMAs and stop you going on your phone. Like, you can't do everything at once at the end of the day. And if you try, you will literally do none of it in the end. So you're right. You're 100% right that at the end of the day, you're going to have good days. You're going to have good nights. You're going to have bad nights. Just try and get through it.
Yeah, just get a few more good than you can bad, and then you're on a roll, really.
Yeah, but that quote from the beginning again, it does kind of kick your ass into gear in the morning when you're feeling, especially at the weekend when you just don't really want to move. You're like, probably should actually. There are things that I can be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And like just sitting there and being comfy is not. Don't get me wrong. On some days it's probably needed, but
100%.
Also, if you do that too frequently, you will not be getting to where you want to get to. So yeah, 100%. I think what I know you appreciate you've effectively just done it, but I think a nice little recap would be good. So I mean, obviously we had a couple of suggestions in there. So exercise, and we both found very beneficial. Eating early, I've in particular found very useful. Eye mask, earplugs, goes without saying, just keeps you nice and asleep when you're supposed to be asleep, and you don't get distracted or woken up by stuff. We've both sort of discussed coffee. Obviously you mentioned sort of before midday, and I'm definitely a first thing or nothing kind of chat. And then points around meditation and
technology.
I'm envious of that technology, mate. I'm gonna have to try that one.
I think that for me that's a big one. But if there's anything that we missed, what we'll do is we'll pop it in the description as well, so that people can just have a quick, easy link back, so that they don't have to make necessary notes as they're going through episode 2 of a podcast that doesn't even have a name.
There will be an exam.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I think that's pretty much everything from there. So we'll wrap up from here. Thanks everyone that is watching or does watch in the future. We hope you've got something out of this, and we will see you for episode 3 next week.
Perfect. See you later, guys, and sleep well in the meantime.